As part of our how-to series, we're going to look at how to view the 4 types of doubt and the progression through them towards certainty and confidence. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below and we'll get back to you personally. And finally, you can join my weekly group membership meetings, reserve your place in one of my seminars, or purchase any of my mind-body guides, also known as the PDFs, at www.crushingdoubt.org. Now, without further ado, here is my in-depth look at the 4 types of doubt and how to understand your progression through them. When I first began working with doubt, it became clear that we were all going to have to know its boundaries. Dr. Sarno's understanding that it was the people who accepted the TMS diagnosis, meaning that their physical symptoms were being caused by a mind-body experience exclusively, were the ones that got better. Any uncertainty in that department and the person could easily be lost for years or even a lifetime to the same symptoms or a cascade of many symptoms, forming one monolithic experience of suffering. This initial look at the role doubt can play helped me to consider the wider lens. Just how far did the reach of doubt go? And if it could affect people that profoundly when they couldn't accept the diagnosis, wasn't it possible that it would affect them at other stages of their recovery too? As I asked these questions, I found I not only was onto something, but that the whole picture started to make much more sense, even in the details. This explained why people who had accepted Sarno's ideas were often still struggling. This explained why some who had had a book cure, getting better just from reading the information, would relapse or struggle with a different symptom later. This explained why people who went searching for the emotional root of their long-standing suffering often weren't getting better. The linchpin of it all was doubt, but not just about the diagnosis, about everything. The more I explored, the more I saw that any doubt, of any kind, holds a certain power over us that can prevent getting better. For some, it may sound like a very tall order to have no doubt, but this isn't actually the goal. The goal is to recognize that we all have a tremendous amount of doubt and to keep doing battle with it, moment by moment, so that it does not go unchallenged. We can get rid of chronic symptoms in this way, leaving doubt begging for crumbs, and only occasionally causing much trouble. And even then, it doesn't stand a chance for long if you've got your system in place. Doubt will always hang around and find its way in wherever it can, but if we are looking for it, we can halt its march against us and minimize its effects. I find that once doubt is beaten enough times and in enough places, its influence over our lives lessens dramatically, and it can even become something about which we can laugh. On the whole, you could say that the battle against doubt is one of a lack of certainty versus crystal clear knowledge. The more we know, for sure, the weaker doubt becomes. This is why I wanted to highlight how my thinking has evolved on doubt. As many of you know, I say that doubt comes in 4 basic forms: questions, confusion, lack of certainty, and fear. When I first started looking at it, I defined it as a simple lack of certainty. This is the most basic level of doubt, and it is the rule rather than the exception in most of our experience. Until we have looked at something for a long time and come to feel comfortable with our stance on it, there is bound to be some uncertainty. But as I studied doubt, I found there were other forms of it, and that they varied in their roles in my doubt column experience. I noticed early on how fear seemed to operate differently than when I was just uncertain about my symptoms in any respect. The symptoms themselves tended to be more extreme when fear was involved, and as such more upsetting and worrisome. Fear seemed to build on itself even more than other forms of doubt. As I have noted before, I came to see it as the emotional form of doubt, because doubt was clearly there, but it was now using the emotions against me to make an even more compelling and scary case for itself. One way to think about it is that fear, or in its most extreme version, activated trauma, is the strongest form of doubt. Every time I figured things out enough to be less afraid, I got better. And every time I moved out of confusion into a state where I still didn't know, but I felt confident I would know, I got better then too. In my book, I talk about something called the fear-confidence spectrum. What this pinpoints is that in the process of moving through doubt, we are moving from bigger doubts to smaller ones. We are making progress when we change the nature of doubt to a less formidable form. The spectrum runs from one end, in which fear presents the most dominant and difficult form of doubt, to full confidence and no doubt. But along the way, we encounter confusion, garden variety lack of certainty, and questions. The way I want you to think about this is that when we are fighting doubt, one of the goals is to move steadily towards lesser forms of doubt so that we are getting closer to confidence. If you think about it, while confusion is no fun and is still a strong form of doubt because it can lead to disorientation and hopelessness, it is not as problematic as fear. Fear requires us to calm down and see a greater level of irrationality, and meanwhile, the arguments generated by fear are much, much more, scary. A fear-based doubt argument is going to have more power if it successfully takes hold. Confusion is, again, no fun, but it at least can be reduced to its essence. We do not know what is happening. Fear obscures even that. You don't even know you are confused. You think what you fear is true. As such, confusion is a step in the right direction from fear. Similarly, a lack of certainty is a step up as well. Now we are no longer totally confused with no reason to think we are going to find our way. Now we just recognize that we aren't sure. We've got some good ideas maybe, but we do not know for sure. But we're improving. Next up, we move from lack of certainty to questions. Remember, A questions are questions that are designed to get you answers and to feel more certain about things, whereas B questions are designed by fear to keep you lost and scared. So here, when I'm talking about questions, I am referring to A questions. The simple questions that remain are the best form of doubt you can have, and they give you the best chance to leap forward into a state without doubt about that specific thing once the question is answered to your satisfaction. There isn't so much fear in A questions. You're not so lost as to be confused, and you are even starting to zero in on potential certainty. You've identified what you need to know to extend your certainty, in fact. A question is basically an exploration of something that, if you knew the answer, moves you closer to believing you make sense and your symptoms make sense. The bottom line is that good, inquisitive, open, and genuine questions are the form of doubt that set you up for success. So try to think about the different forms of doubt as existing on a spectrum. Recognize when you're moving closer to resolution by moving to more accessible and useful forms of doubt and away from the more paralyzing, dominating ones. Keep asking the good questions that get you the answers you need, and watch out for those B questions that don't even have this goal in mind. Stay focused on what needs to be answered well to get to certainty. I really hope you enjoyed this episode on understanding the 4 types of doubt and how they help you locate your place in the process. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below, and we'll get back to you personally.